This presentation is about gender pronouns. Back in primary school, we probably learned that pronouns are the words we use in place of nouns. And we're probably taught that singular pronouns were limited to he, him, his, and she, her, hers, and plural pronouns to they, them, their. The singular pronouns reinforce a gender binary. That is, that there are only two genders, man and woman. But we know that there are many genders that exist outside that binary language. For this reason, some people use gender-neutral pronouns or non-binary pronouns, such as they, them, theirs, or sie, hier, hers. A few hundred years ago, the second person you was exclusively a plural pronoun. Thou was the singular version. Example, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not lie. Eventually, you as a pronoun extended to the singular meaning and pushed out thou entirely. Who's to say the same thing could happen with they? English speakers have been using they as a singular pronoun to refer to someone whose gender is unknown ever since the Middle Ages. Someone left their goblet in the gatehouse. If we're talking grammar rules, singular they was considered perfectly acceptable as a generic third singular pronoun all the way up until the late 18th century. That's when grammarians decided that people should start using generic he instead, because that's what was done in Latin. Consequently, style books adopted the generic but sexist he, as did most educators, who quickly convinced themselves that singular they in any context was not only grammatically unacceptable but fundamentally illogical. And yet, millions of everyday people, including plenty of respected writers, ignored the new generic he rule and continued using they as a gender non-specific pronoun anyway. He was predominantly used in books and forms and then replaced by he, she. Jane Austen used the singular they precisely 75 times throughout her novels. For example, in Pride and Prejudice, she writes, "But to expose the former faults of any person without knowing what their present feelings were seemed unjustifiable." As transgender and non-binary identities become more and more visible, so does the discussion about gender pronouns. And many people who identify as neither male nor female are using pronouns in different ways to what is considered the norm. And this may include the neutral pronoun they uses the singular pronoun or a style from the many neo-pronouns. The hypertext links on this slide point to internet slides on the following people who are in the public eye in relation to their use of pronouns. In more recent times, Merriam-Webster announced the addition of they as a singular pronoun in their dictionary. Everyone has and uses pronouns, and it's important to respect these pronouns. Also, note that a person's pronouns are not preferred. They are their pronouns. While the language of preferred pronouns may have been widely recognized several years ago, the LGBTQ community has pushed to eliminate the use of the term preferred when referring to someone's pronouns, because it communicates a message that the use of those pronouns is optional when it is not. Another thing to note, particularly for educators, is about the process of asking for student pronouns. It's become common practice in many spaces to have individuals introduce themselves by stating their names and pronouns. This practice, though rooted in an attempt at inclusivity, can actually be harmful to trans and non-binary individuals, especially those that are currently grappling with how they identify. As noted by Keane in 2020, It can be very risky to announce your pronouns in front of a group of people you don't know, when there is not yet trust or a sense of community. Additionally, there's absolutely no guarantee that sharing someone's pronouns will mean that those pronouns are actually understood, taken up, and correctly used by the other people in the group. And so, in each of these interactions, in every new class, group meeting, interview or orientation, trans and non-binary people must make the agonizing decision: do I show up authentically in this moment, risking my safety and credibility, or do I silence myself in order to remain safe while at the same time denying my full humanity? Instead of asking for this information in such a public way, many leaders in the field have begun to recommend allowing students to disclose this privately if they so choose. And you might hear a lot of arguments against the use of they as a gender neutral pronoun and as a singular pronoun. And people might say gender neutral pronouns are just another fad or flavour of the month and they'll disappear soon. So why make the effort now? And generally people in this category are okay with using pronouns which comply with a person's appearance, like using she, her for someone who has a woman's body and face. You might also hear the not speaking proper argument. And it makes sense that these structural linguistic changes cause such strong reactions. This isn't just an issue of gender pronouns. Long before non-binary identity, meeting certain grammatical standards was still highly valued by English speakers and didn't have much to do with gender at all. Instead, it was to do with money and social class and getting on in the world because you speak proper. So whenever language changes, as when anything in life changes, it is frequently a sign of bigger social changes, which can make people a bit anxious. And it might be why older people are loathe teen slang, no matter the era. And it represents a new generation rising up and taking over as new words enter the everyday language. Some people also find it hard to adjust, and it does take practice adjusting to using the singular they when referring to a specific person, and most people actually don't mind if you make an honest mistake. Another argument you hear is that there are too many neopronouns to remember, and some people are just contrary. If people don't approve of non-binary identity, don't believe in it, or feel the need to affirm it, then it's possible to find a reason to avoid using gender-neutral language, no matter what. So the pronouns sie and zer, they came about in the noughties, and in July 2014, the Swedish introduced an entirely new gender-neutral third singular pronoun, hen, and was added to the official dictionary next to hen and han, meaning he and she, and many people have adopted hen into their vocabularies in Sweden with little complaint. Using gender-neutral pronouns shows respect for people's identities, experiences and humanity, and you're showing recognition for people who are intersex, non-binary and transgender to the right to their identities and how they wish to be saluted. A transgender person doesn't want other people to use the pronouns they were assigned at birth. They want to be known with their new pronouns, and not doing this is a sign of disrespect. And when we use the right pronouns for people, we're acknowledging their right to define their own gender identity. Not so many years ago, the world of gender for many people was very polarised. It boiled down to answering a question like, are you a man or a woman? Now we're hearing terms such as cisgender, agender, bigender, transgender more and more often, which come under the umbrella term of gender identity. Facebook have added around 70 gender options to give its users a wider range or array of identities to describe themselves. Some dating apps like Tinder allow users to identify themselves outside the gender binary. I got this graphic from an American site, and it goes back to 2019, and it showed that there was still a level of discomfort with the use of pronouns. And I'm wondering if things are getting any better over there, or what the situation is here in Ireland. And it's great when we see policies and procedures reflecting the need to use neutral pronouns and substituting neutral pronouns in for the usual he and she, providing a list of options for preferred pronouns on forms and registration materials, providing space on name tags to display pronouns at events, allowing staff and students to change their gender markers, names on official documents and so on. And when you see that the organisation is providing training on pronouns, dead naming and misgendering. And a few words of caution here. Avoid situations that make revealing gender information mandatory or pressure someone to do this. A person might be comfortable in one situation and not in another with using a nickname, a new name or pronouns. And some people may still be questioning and forming their identity and don't wish to come out or be outed due to safety concerns, or may simply wish to maintain their privacy. Not all transgender or non-binary people feel comfortable sharing the pronouns they use until they are sure they feel comfortable and supported. It can be risky to announce pronouns in front of people they don't know, and there's no guarantee that sharing one's pronouns will mean they are understood. And it might happen that you get a person's pronouns wrong. And if you do, simply apologise. Correct yourself and move on. Over-apologising runs the risk of putting the person you've misgendered in a position in which they feel they need to comfort you. This is an unfair burden, and it's one we must avoid forcing upon someone. To avoid making a mistake in the first place, it's okay to ask the person what their pronouns are, and it's also important to not make assumptions about a person's pronouns. Every day we encounter new people whose genders we don't know, yet when we talk about them, we often gender them without a second thought. For example, that man just skipped me in the queue. Practice thinking of and describing new people you meet in gender-neutral ways. For example, if a student you don't know leaves their bag in the classroom, instead of saying, "Does anyone know who that girl is that just left your bag here?" you could say, "Does anyone know the student who left their bag in the class?" Or, Tom is not performing well on their course, and instead of saying he, we say, "I recommend that they get support." And here are some practices that you might consider that can have an impact on the campus culture, making it more inclusive, respectful and inviting. For instance, listing of your personal pronouns as part of your email signature or your social media profile, your webpage bio. And this can serve as a sign of respect to the gender minority community and an invitation to others to share their pronouns if they wish. This can also be complemented with hyperlinks to information on gender pronouns or the university's EDI policies. Utilising gender-neutral language in your notes, as well as using the singular there, they, them, as opposed to she, he, and similar variations can also have a very positive impact. For those who teach grammar, the lessons could include being able to change the pronouns used to refer to somebody being accepted as a valuable skill. Gender-inclusive language instruction could be included in grammar classes, just as being able to know when to use their, T-H-E-I-R, versus their, T-H-E-R-E. In the following slides, I've set some questions for you to think about. So, first question, can encouraging people to say "hi folks" instead of "hi guys" or to call Mary an engineer instead of a woman engineer, change the perspective of gender at large and push people's attitudes towards gender in a more accepting direction. Question 2. Debate the requirements of a policy for making the use of gender-neutral pronouns mandatory in the workplace or the university. Discuss the case of a lecturer refusing to use a transgender student's pronouns. The lecturer normally refers to their students as Miss X, Mr. Y. Instead of using the requested pronouns, the lecturer addresses the student by their surname instead. The student had no complaints to make about their overall marks in the subject. Your answer should refer to the role of the lecturer, the effect on the classroom environment, freedom of speech, academic freedom, any legal decisions which have established precedents or exceptions for educators in the Irish or international context. Question 3 is based on true events, and the links here will give you more information.